I paid for my golden child sister's education while working two jobs, only to have her call me the dumbest loser ever at a family dinner. She was shocked when I stopped paying her rent and told everyone why she could no longer afford her lifestyle. Hey Reddit, I never thought I would be writing this out for strangers to read. But honestly, I don't have anyone else who would understand the sheer magnitude of what just happened. I'm sitting in my truck right now, parked down the street from the house I grew up in, watching the lights go out one by one. For the first time in my life, I don't feel the crushing weight of obligation. I feel free. But getting here, it was a nightmare that lasted 26 years. I, 26 female, have always been the background character in the movie of my family's life. The star of the show has always been my younger sister, Bella, 22, female. From the moment she was born, it was like the sun rose and set on her command. My parents, let's call them Robert and Linda, decided early on that Bella was destined for greatness, while I was destined to be the sturdy furniture that held everyone else up. To understand why I did what I did, you have to understand the dynamic of my childhood. It wasn't just favoritism, it was a complete distortion of reality. If Bella got a C on a test, it wasn't because she didn't study. It was because the teacher was stifling her creativity and my parents would storm the school to demand a grade change. If I got a B, I was asked why I wasn't applying myself like the neighbor's kid. If Bella wanted a new toy, she got it because she's just so creative. She needs it for her development. If I needed new soccer cleats because mine had holes, I was told money was tight and I needed to learn the value of taking care of my things. I remember one specific incident when I was 12 and she was 8. I had spent 3 months mowing lawns in the neighborhood to save up for a specific video game console. I kept the money in a jar on my dresser. One day I came home to find the jar empty. When I asked my parents, my mom told me that Bella had borrowed it to buy a limited edition doll set she saw online. When I got upset, I was grounded for being selfish and materialistic. They promised they would pay me back. They never did. That was the first lesson I learned. My hard work was community property. Bella's desires were immediate necessities. By the time we hit our teenage years, the gap had widened into a canyon. I started working legally at 14, bagging groceries, cleaning gutters, doing whatever manual labor I could find to buy my own clothes and save for a car. Bella was enrolled in dance classes, art camps, and vocal lessons, none of which she stuck with for more than 6 months. She was finding herself. I was finding calluses on my hands. When I turned 16, I bought a beat-up sedan with my own money. It had 150,000 miles on it, and the air conditioning didn't work, but it was mine. When Bella turned 16, my parents leased her a brand new compact SUV because safety is a priority, and they didn't want her driving a death trap like mine. I paid for my own gas and insurance. Bella's gas card was linked to my dad's bank account. When I graduated high school, my parents sat me down for the talk. They told me that college was expensive and they hadn't saved enough for both of us. Since I was so good with my hands and hardworking, they expected me to go straight into the workforce or trade school, which I would have to pay for myself. They needed to save their resources for Bella because she had academic potential. I didn't argue. I was used to it. In a way, I was proud of it. I got a certification in HVAC and started working immediately. I moved into a tiny studio apartment that smelled like mildew and old soup, drove my beat-up car that rattled when it went over 40, and worked 60-hour weeks. I built a life that was small, but it was mine. I had Lucas, my boyfriend, who didn't care that I came home exhausted, with dust in my hair and grease on my sleeves. He'd listen to me vent, bring over takeout when I was too tired to cook, and tell me I deserved better than what my family gave me. Or so I thought. Then came the real kicker. 4 years ago, Bella got accepted into a private liberal arts college in the city. It was expensive, astronomical, really. My parents, who had refinanced their house twice to pay for her necessities in high school, didn't have the cash. They called a family meeting. I remember sitting at the kitchen table, still wearing my work uniform, covered in dust and grease. My mom made me put a towel down on the chair so I wouldn't dirty the upholstery. The air in the room was thick, like right before a thunderstorm. "Christine," my dad started, using his serious voice, the one he used when he was trying to sell a bad idea as a good one. "We have a situation. Bella has this incredible opportunity. It's her dream school, but the tuition and the living expenses in the city, it's more than we can handle alone." I nodded, taking a sip of water. "Okay, so she's going to a state school or getting loans or working?" My mom looked at me like I had suggested we sell Bella to a circus. "Student loans? We don't want her starting her life with that kind of debt, Christine. It's crippling. And state school, her program isn't as good there. She needs this environment to thrive. And work? She needs to focus on her studies. This is a delicate time for her. Okay, I said slowly, feeling the trap closing in, but not seeing the mechanism yet. So, what's the plan? We need you to chip in, my dad said. He didn't ask. He stated it. You're making good money now, with all that overtime you work. You don't have a family to support, you live simply. We've run the numbers. If you cover Bella's rent and living expenses, we can manage the tuition payments. I stared at them. The silence stretched out, filled only by the hum of the refrigerator. You want me to pay for her apartment in the city? That market is insane. It's an investment in the family, Bella chimed in. She was sitting there, scrolling on her phone, barely paying attention to the conversation that was deciding my financial future. When I make it big, I'll buy you a new truck or something. We're a team, my mom added, reaching across the table to pat my hand, carefully avoiding the grease stains. You're the big sister. It's your job to look out for her. Imagine how proud we'll all be when she graduates. And really, Christine, what else are you spending your money on? You just work and sleep. You have plenty of disposable income. The guilt trip was immense. They talked about sacrifice, about family duty, about how I had always been the strong one. They brought up every time they had fed me or housed me as a child, as if it were a debt I now had to repay. They wore me down. I agreed. I agreed to pay $20,500 a month for her rent and give her a monthly allowance for groceries and bills. For the last 4 years, I have worked 2 jobs to maintain this promise. By day, I work full-time HVAC, crawling into scorching attics in the summer, where the temperature hits 130 degrees, and freezing crawl spaces in the winter, where the dampness settles into your bones. By night and on weekends, I work at a logistics warehouse, loading heavy boxes onto trucks until my back feels like it's going to snap. I wake up at 5 o'clock a.m. I get home at 11 o'clock p.m. I eat sandwiches from gas stations because I don't have time to cook. I haven't taken a vacation in 5 years. My social life consists of waving to my neighbors as I leave before dawn. I missed my best friend's wedding because I couldn't afford to take the weekend off without missing a payment for Bella. I do this so Bella can live in a luxury apartment with a doorman, stainless steel appliances, a gym I've never seen, and a view of the skyline. I do this so she can study communications and post pictures of her expensive lunches on social media. Every time I visited her, which was rare because I was always working, she would complain. The apartment was too small. The doorman was rude. The internet was too slow. She never asked how I was. She never asked why I looked like a zombie from exhaustion. She never asked why I was wearing work boots with duct tape on them. She just held out her hand for the next check. My parents were no better. They visited her constantly, taking her shopping for clothes she needed for internships she never got. They'd post photos of their outings with captions like, "So proud of our girl, working so hard." Meanwhile, I was literally sweating through my clothes installing ductwork. The cracks started to show about 6 months ago. I was exhausted. I mean, bone-deep, soul-crushing exhaustion. I hurt my back at the warehouse, lifted a crate wrong, and had to take 3 days off unpaid. I was physically unable to get out of bed. I was short on cash for my own rent, my tiny, crummy apartment rent, and I asked Bella if she could maybe skip the allowance that month so I could catch up. Just the allowance, not the rent, just the spending money. She exploded. She told me I was selfish, that I was trying to sabotage her during midterms. It was October, midterms were over, and that she had already promised to go on a weekend trip with her friends and needed the money for the hotel. My parents called me 10 minutes later, screaming that I had broken my promise and upset my sister. "You have 2 jobs, Christine," my dad yelled over the phone. "Where's the money going? You need to manage your finances better. Don't punish your sister for your incompetence. Maybe if you didn't buy those energy drinks you like, you'd have enough." I paid her. I ate ramen noodles for 3 weeks and didn't turn on my heat during a cold snap. But I paid her. I laid in the dark, shivering under 3 blankets, nursing my back, and I transferred the money so she could go to a spa weekend. That brings us to last night, the graduation dinner. Bella finally graduated. It took her 5 years because she changed her focus a few times, but she finished. To celebrate, my parents booked a private room at this incredibly expensive steakhouse downtown. I had to work a half shift at the warehouse just to be able to afford the time off for the dinner. I rushed home, showered the grime off as best I could, put on my one decent suit, which is a bit tight in the shoulders now from all the lifting, and drove to the restaurant. I was 10 minutes late because of traffic. When I walked in, they were already seated. The table was filled with appetizers: calamari, shrimp cocktails, fancy cheeses, sparkling waters with lime. My Aunt Susan and Uncle Mike were there along with my cousin Jessica. Everyone was laughing. The room smelled of expensive perfume and seared meat. "Look who finally decided to show up," Bella said loudly as I approached the table. She didn't stand up to hug me. She just smirked. She was wearing a dress that probably cost more than my car insurance for the year. "We almost ordered your food to go." "Sorry," I muttered, taking the empty seat at the end of the table. Traffic was a nightmare coming from the warehouse. There was an accident on the bridge. "Always an excuse," my dad said, shaking his head and buttering a roll. "Sit down, Christine. Try not to get any dirt on the tablecloth. This is a nice place." I looked at my hands. They were scrubbed raw, clean as a whistle, but the calluses, scars, and ingrained stains from years of labor made them look rough. I put them in my lap, hiding them under the napkin. The dinner went on, and it was the Bella show. Everyone fawned over her. They praised her for graduating. They asked about her plans. They treated her like she had just returned from a war zone instead of a climate-controlled classroom. "I'm going to take a gap year," Bella announced, sipping her sparkling water with her pinky out. "I need to decompress. School was so traumatic. I'm thinking of traveling to Europe for a few months, maybe starting a lifestyle blog. I really need to find my center." "That sounds wonderful, honey." My mom beamed, clapping her hands together. "You deserve a break. You've worked so hard. Europe will be so culturing for you." "Europe?" I asked, my voice rasping. "How are you going to pay for that?" The table went silent. The clinking of silverware stopped. Bella glared at me, her eyes narrowing. "Excuse me?" I said, trying to keep my voice steady, feeling the heat rise in my neck. "I've been paying your rent and bills for 4 years. Now that you're graduated, the deal was, you get a job and take over your own expenses. I can't fund a European vacation. I barely have enough to fix the brakes on my truck." My dad slammed his hand on the table, rattling the glasses. "Christine, this is a celebration. We do not discuss money at the dinner table. It is incredibly tacky. Why do you always have to bring the mood down?" "It's not tacky to ask how she plans to live," I said, feeling the anger rising in my chest. A hot, solid thing I hadn't let myself feel in years. "I'm tired, Dad. I've been working 80-hour weeks for years. I'm done. I can't do it anymore." Bella laughed. It was a cold, cruel sound, devoid of any sibling affection. "Oh, boo-hoo, poor Christine and her manual labor. You act like you're carrying the weight of the world. You act like you're some hero. All you do is lift boxes and turn wrenches. A monkey could do your job. It's not exactly brain surgery, Christine," Aunt Susan said softly, looking uncomfortable. "That's not nice. Your sister works hard." "It's true," Bella snapped, turning on her. "She's just jealous. She's always been jealous of me because I actually have ambition. She's bitter because she's stuck in a dead-end life while I'm going places. She should be grateful she gets to be part of my success. She's lucky I even let her come tonight." "Grateful," I whispered. The word tasted like ash. "I paid for your apartment. I paid for your food. I paid for your clothes. I paid for the phone you're holding right now." "You did the bare minimum," Bella shouted, her face twisting into something ugly. "You're the big sister. That's what you're supposed to do. And honestly, you're terrible at it. You're always late with the money. You always complain. You're such a drag. You know what you are, Christine. You're the dumbest loser ever. You have no life, no boyfriend worth mentioning, no future. You're just a wallet with a pulse, and barely a good one at that." I thought of Lucas then, of the way he'd begged me to cut them off months ago, of how I had pushed him away from this dinner because I was too ashamed to let him see how they treated me. I looked around the table. My parents weren't scolding her. My mom was sipping her drink, looking away, examining her nails. My dad was glaring at me like I had caused a scene, like I was the problem for provoking her. "That's enough," my dad said to me. "Apologize to your sister for ruining her night. You've upset her. Apologize." "Apologize?" I stood up. My chair scraped loudly against the floor, drawing the eyes of the entire restaurant. "You want me to apologize after she called me a loser? After I sacrificed my entire early 20s to fund her lifestyle after I ruined my back for her rent?" "She's stressed," my mom hissed. "She's graduating. It's a big transition. Stop making this about you. Can't you just be the bigger person for once?" I looked at Bella. She was smirking again, victorious. She thought she had won. She thought I would sit back down, apologize, and cut the check for Europe. She thought I was broken. "You think I'm a loser?" I asked quietly. "The biggest," she said, popping a grape into her mouth. "The dumbest loser ever." "Okay," I said, "okay. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. I opened my banking app. The interface glowed in the dim restaurant light. "What are you doing?" Bella asked, looking annoyed. "Checking your bank balance to see if you can afford dessert?" "I'm being smart for once," I said, tapping the screen. "I'm canceling the recurring transfer for your rent. I'm canceling the transfer for your allowance. And I'm logging into the utility companies right now to remove my card from your accounts." Bella's face dropped. The smirk vanished. "You can't do that. Rent is due in 3 days." "Not my problem," I said. "Losers don't pay rent for people who hate them." "Dad!" Bella shrieked, her voice rising to a panic. "Make her stop. She's stealing my money." My dad stood up, his face red, veins bulging in his neck. "Christine, sit down right now. If you cut her off, you are disowned. Do you hear me? You are out of this family. You will never step foot in our house again." I looked at my dad, the man who taught me to tie my shoes, who I thought I was helping, who had used me as a beast of burden for years. I looked at him and saw a stranger. "I think I was out of this family a long time ago," I said. "I was just the only one paying the admission fee." I turned to the rest of the table. Aunt Susan looked horrified, her hand over her mouth. Uncle Mike looked stunned, his fork halfway to his mouth. "Just so everyone knows," I said, loud enough for the neighboring tables to hear, "Bella isn't a genius. She isn't independent. I have paid every single cent of her rent, her bills, and her spending money for 4 years. I worked 2 jobs, 80 hours a week to fund her, and tonight she called me a loser. So she's on her own. Enjoy the calamari." I threw a $20 bill on the table for my water and walked out. Bella was screaming as I left. My mom was crying theatrically. My dad was shouting threats about lawyers. I didn't look back. I got in my truck and drove away. I turned off my phone because it started blowing up immediately. I drove for an hour just listening to the hum of the tires and the wind rushing past. I ended up back near my childhood home just processing it all. It's been 12 hours. I turned my phone on this morning. 47 missed calls, 112 texts, voicemails from everyone. I haven't listened to them yet. I'm going to go to work today, just one job, because I quit the warehouse shift last night via email. I'm going to go home to my quiet apartment and I'm going to sleep for 12 hours. I don't know what's going to happen next, but for the first time in years, the money in my bank account is mine, and that feels pretty good. It's been 5 days since the dinner. Life has been weirdly quiet on my end, but explosive on theirs. The silence in my apartment isn't lonely anymore. It's peaceful. First off, quitting the warehouse job was the best feeling in the world. My back doesn't hurt as much when I wake up. I actually had time to cook a real meal last night. Chicken and vegetables, not a gas station burrito. It felt like luxury. I sat there eating on a Tuesday night, not rushing to a second shift, and I almost cried from the sheer normalcy of it. My phone, however, has been a war zone. Eventually, I forced myself to listen to the voicemails just to make sure no one had died. Most of them were from my mom, alternating between crying and guilt-tripping. "How could you do this? We're a family. Bella is hysterical. You've ruined everything. Please, Christine, just pay it for 1 more month until we figure this out." Then a few from my dad, mostly threats. "You better fix this before I come over there. You're ungrateful. I'm ashamed of you. You are stealing from your sister." And Bella, oh, Bella. Her texts were a roller coaster of emotions, none of them genuine. "You're such a jerk. Put the money back now. I'm sorry, okay? Just pay the rent. I hate you. Please, I have no food. You're dead to me." I didn't respond to a single one. I eventually blocked their numbers just to get some peace. However, the real fallout started yesterday. Since I stopped paying the rent, the payment bounced. Bella's apartment complex doesn't play around. High-end corporate building downtown. The kind that sends eviction notices the second your balance is off by a nickel. I got an email from the landlord because my name was on the lease as guarantor. Stupid, I know. I signed it 4 years ago, thinking Bella would graduate early and be self-sufficient. They notified me that rent was overdue and late fees were applying. I replied immediately, formally withdrawing as guarantor. They told me I'd have to pay a $2,000 lease break fee to sever liability. I paid it, gladly, happily. I would have paid double to be free. Bella apparently got the eviction warning taped to her door. That's when the flying monkeys started their attack. My phone blew up with calls and texts from numbers I hadn't seen in years. Aunts, uncles, cousins, even Bella's friends I'd met once at a barbecue. My Aunt Karen, not Susan, left a voicemail calling me a monster. "She's a young woman," she screeched. "It's dangerous to leave her homeless. What kind of sister are you? Family helps family." I realized then my parents were controlling the narrative. They were telling everyone I had abandoned Bella out of cruelty, conveniently forgetting to mention the 4 years of unpaid emotional labor, financial ruin, and backbreaking work. So I decided to make one public statement. No drama, no insults, just facts. I logged into Facebook, a place I hadn't visited in years, and typed, "For those messaging me about Bella, for the last 4 years, I have worked 2 full-time jobs, averaging 80 hours a week, to pay 100% of Bella's rent, bills, and spending money in a luxury downtown apartment while I lived in a studio and drove a 15-year-old truck." At her graduation dinner, instead of gratitude, she called me the dumbest loser ever and mocked my job. I am not abandoning her. I am letting her be the independent adult she claims to be. Please stop contacting me about this. The reaction was immediate. Extended family members had no idea I was paying for everything. Aunt Susan commented, "I had no idea, Christine. You are a good woman and didn't deserve that abuse. My home is open to you anytime." My cousin Jessica commented, "Wait, you paid for her trip to Cabo last year? She told everyone she won a contest." The narrative collapsed in minutes. My parents were furious. My dad showed up at my apartment yesterday evening. I was watching TV, enjoying the silence, when I heard pounding on my door. I looked through the peephole and saw him, red-faced, sweating, furious. I didn't open the door. I spoke through it. "Go away, Dad. Open this door, Christine. We need to talk. You embarrassed us in front of the whole family. You aired our dirty laundry." "You aired it when you let your daughter abuse me in public. If you don't fix this, Bella is going to be homeless. This is on your conscience." I exhaled slowly. For once, I wasn't scared. "If you don't leave, I'll call the police for trespassing." "You wouldn't dare call the cops on your father." "Try me. You already said I was disowned, remember? Strangers aren't allowed to bang on my door." He pounded for 5 more minutes. A neighbor came outside to stare him down. He finally stormed off, kicking my doormat as he left. Later, Aunt Susan called to check on me and said, "They're in full-blown panic mode. They can't afford Bella's rent. They were using your money to maintain their lifestyle. Without you, they're drowning." Bella refuses to move home because it would ruin her brand. She tried selling her designer clothes online, but was shocked to learn people don't pay retail for used handbags. She's floundering, sinking, panicking. And me? I bought myself a steak again tonight. Cooked it medium rare, ate it in peace. For the first time in years, my money is mine. And that small freedom tastes better than anything in that expensive restaurant ever could. It's been 2 weeks. The dust hasn't settled. It's turned into a mudslide. Bella has officially been evicted. Or, technically, she moved out in the middle of the night before the sheriff could come. She couldn't come up with the rent money. The $20,500 I used to pay without fail, every month, for 4 straight years. The $3,000 she thought she could get for her vintage wardrobe ended up being about $400 at a consignment shop. Turns out used clothes aren't stocks, and luxury loses value fast when it smells like last summer's perfume. So she had to move back in with our parents. The very suburbs she sneered at, the house she said she'd never set foot in again, her old childhood bedroom with its faded paint and creaky bed frame. Because her luxury furniture doesn't fit, half of it is now stacked in the garage, absorbing humidity and slowly warping. Poetic. The financial reality has hit my parents like a freight train. Without me subsidizing Bella, their budget is obliterated. They'd quietly built their entire lifestyle around not having to support her financially. Now they suddenly have a full-grown adult with expensive tastes and zero income under their roof. Their grocery bill has tripled. My mom has to listen to Bella complain about cheap snacks and boring meals 12 times a day. My dad's credit cards are rejected more frequently. And apparently, according to Jessica, the fights have been explosive. Bella refused to get a job. She said retail was beneath her. She said office work was soul-crushing. She said temp jobs were for sad people who failed. She spent her days lying in bed, crying on Instagram Live, or recording videos about narcissistic abuse. My parents begged her to apply for anything. She refused. Then 3 days ago, I got a voicemail from my dad's number. I let it go to voicemail. He sounded different, weak, aged, defeated. "Christine, it's Dad. Look, things are difficult here. Bella is having a hard time adjusting. Your mother is stressed. We might have been too harsh at the dinner. We were just caught up in the moment. We miss you. We want to put this behind us. Bella is willing to apologize if you come over for Sunday dinner. We can talk about a payment plan or something less abrupt. Maybe you could just cover half. Please call me back." Half a payment plan. Not an apology, not accountability, not love. A calculated pitch to get the ATM turned back on. I didn't call back. Instead, I went to the bank. I opened a high-yield savings account. I took the money that would have gone to Bella's rent this month, $2,500, and I deposited it. Seeing that balance with my name on it felt intoxicating. It was the first time in years I had savings that weren't earmarked for someone else's emergencies. I also did something else, something I'd wanted for a long time. I signed up for a class, a business management course at the community college. Lucas encouraged me every step of the way, telling me I'm smart, talented, and capable of so much more than HVAC and warehouse shifts. He even helped me choose the textbooks and set up my study space. I paid the tuition in cash. No guilt, no hesitation. Meanwhile, Bella has been melting down on social media. She hasn't named me directly, probably because she knows I'll expose her again, but she keeps posting vague, tearful videos about and toxic family members, being cut off from resources, surviving abuse, and the universe testing her. Her followers, most of whom are strangers she bought for $10, are confused because the comment section started lighting up with screenshots of my Facebook post. People wrote things like, "Wait, didn't your sister pay for everything for 4 years? Get a job, girl. You should be grateful. My siblings wouldn't give me $4, let alone thousands. Sell your things if you're so broke. Why complain to strangers?" She eventually turned off comments. Her last post was a photo of her crying in bed with the caption, "Some people are born to suffer, so others can thrive." Someone commented before she turned comments off, "Sis, you were the one thriving. Your sister was the one suffering." I snorted my coffee. Then yesterday at the hardware store, I ran into Uncle Mike. I froze, expecting judgment, a lecture, a guilt trip. Instead, he walked up, shook my hand firmly, and pulled me into a hug. "Proud of you, kid," he said. It nearly broke me. "We all saw what was happening, but we didn't know the extent of it. You stood up for yourself. About time." "Thanks, Uncle Mike." He lowered his voice. "Listen, your dad is going to come at you again. He'll try to negotiate. Then he'll threaten. Then he'll guilt you. Don't fold. You've got a good head on your shoulders. Keep it there." "I won't fold," I promised. "Good. And hey," he added, clapping my shoulder, "if you need a place to go for Thanksgiving, Susan makes a mean turkey. No admission fee required." I nearly cried in the plumbing aisle. It hit me then. I didn't lose my family. I lost the parasites. The ones who truly care, Uncle Mike, Aunt Susan, Cousin Jessica, are still here, and somehow, after everything, our bond is stronger. I'm still working HVAC full-time, but the days feel lighter. I come home after 1 shift, not 2. I shower. I study for my business class. Sometimes Lucas comes over, brings food, rubs my shoulders, tells me he's proud. We watch movies again. We sleep at reasonable hours. My life is quieter, smaller, simpler, but it finally feels like mine. It's been 6 months since the infamous graduation dinner. 6 months since I walked out of that steakhouse and out of the role my parents had shoved me into since childhood. 6 months since I stopped sacrificing my body, money, and sanity for a sister who believed entitlement was a personality trait and parents who believed I existed to prop up their golden child. My life today, unrecognizable in the best way possible. Let me start with the easy part. I finished my first semester of business classes with an A. I'm good at this stuff, really good. Something no one in my family ever believed about me. Without the Bella tax draining me dry, I've saved nearly $15,000. For the first time in my life, I have an emergency fund. I even bought myself a reliable used pickup, air conditioning, smooth engine, no more rattling every time I hit 40 mph. I also officially launched my own HVAC business, Solid Air HVAC, LLC. Just me, my truck, my tools, a binder of business notes from school. I've been picking up side jobs, weekends, evenings, but now they're for me, not for her. It feels incredible. And Lucas, he's been my rock through this entire transformation. He helped design my logo. He drives with me on some jobs, handing me tools, cracking jokes, making the work feel lighter. He tells me he's proud of me every single day. He doesn't take from me. He adds to my life, something I didn't know was possible growing up. Now for the messy part. Bella lasted 2 months at my parents' house before the explosion. The first month she cried. The second month she screamed. She refused to work. She refused to clean. She refused to do anything except film tearful videos about false narratives and the haters trying to destroy her aura. She demanded organic groceries only. She demanded privacy in the master bedroom because content creation needs space. She demanded my parents Uber her to important events, which were just mall trips. The breaking point happened when Bella stole my mother's credit card. She booked a flight to Miami. Flights, hotel, VIP tables at clubs, charging more than $3,000 to the card. She planned to network with influencers. The bill arrived. There was no money to cover it, not even close. My dad hit his limit. Neighbors heard the shouting through the walls. Someone called the cops for a domestic disturbance. And then, like a biblical moment, my dad actually did something he'd never done in his life. He kicked Bella out. Bags on the lawn, door locked. No more shopping sprees, no more luxury living, no more handouts. I found out from Jessica that my mom sobbed while Bella screamed that they ruined her brand. The night she came to my door. It was raining, cold, miserable. I heard knocking at 2 a.m. soft at first, then louder, then frantic. I checked the peephole. Bella. Mascara smeared, hair soaked, holding one duffel bag like her entire world had shrunk to 20 pounds of wet clothes. I opened the door but kept the chain on. "Christine," she sobbed. "Please. Dad kicked me out. I have nowhere to go. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. You were right. I was awful. Please, let me stay for a few days." It hurt. God, it hurt. The little sister I protected my whole life was standing there broken. For a split second, every instinct screamed to save her. But then I remembered. The dinners, the screaming, the insults, the exploitation, the years of labor, the 80-hour weeks, the warehouse injuries, the ramen dinners, the cold apartment, and the moment she called me the dumbest loser ever. I swallowed hard. "I can't let you stay here, Bella." "What? But you have a couch. I'll sleep on the floor. Christine, please, you're my sister." "I can't," I repeated. "You need to figure this out on your own. If I save you now, I'm just hurting you later." "No," I said softly. "I want you to grow up." I slid a piece of paper through the crack, the address of a women's shelter. She stared at it like it was poison. Then she crumpled it and threw it at me. "I'm not staying in a shelter. I'm Bella. I'm special." "Then you better start walking," I said, and closed the door. I sat with my back against the door while she screamed, kicked, sobbed, then fell silent. I didn't sleep. Where she ended up. Not at a shelter. Surprise. She went to Aunt Susan's house. Susan took her in, but on strict conditions. No phone use except job applications, mandatory chores, mandatory job search, mandatory rent payments once employed. Bella had no choice. She's now working as a receptionist at a dental office. She hates it, but she's doing it. For the first time in her life, she is supporting herself. And according to Jessica, she cries a lot, but she also shows up on time. She's learning, slowly. My parents. They wanted to meet. We met at a diner, neutral territory. They looked smaller, older, like life finally punched them in the face with reality. My dad stared at his coffee. "We owe you an apology." My mom wiped her eyes. "We failed you. We poured everything into Bella and ignored you. We used you. We ruined her in the process." "Yeah," I said, "you did." "Can you ever forgive us?" my mom asked. "I don't know," I said honestly. "Maybe someday, but not today. The trust is gone. You saw me as a resource, not a daughter." Dad swallowed hard. "What can we do to fix this?" "Fix yourselves," I said. "Let Bella stand on her own. Stop enabling her. And stop expecting me to clean up the mess you made." They nodded. We didn't hug. We didn't pretend everything was fine. We just acknowledged the truth. And me? I didn't just survive. I rose. I climbed out of the hole they shoved me into and built something with my own hands. I have my business, my savings, my health back, peace, freedom, and Lucas. Wonderful, steady, loving Lucas. We spend our evenings cooking together, laughing, planning little road trips on weekends. He treats me with respect I didn't know I deserved. Last night, we sat on my balcony at sunset, me in his hoodie, him stealing bites of my fries, and I realized something. I'm not a loser. I never was. I was a survivor growing up in a house that taught me love had a price tag. Now I'm finally learning what real love looks like. My life isn't perfect. My family isn't fixed. But I'm free, and I'm building something real. With my own two hands. And with a man who loves me, not what I can give him. Thanks for reading, Reddit.